What's good, everybody? This is Y and Z, a conversation between the generations. Well, which generation? We'll see if you can follow the math. Generation Y, aka myself, known as the Millennials, and Z, that one over there, Gen Z. Xavian Lewis, I'm Jay Clark. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. Before we get into today, because I don't know where today is going to lead us, let's backtrack real quick, sir. How was your weekend of love? Did you have a good time? Did you get up with the boo? I know you in the long distance relationship. How was your Valentine's Day?
The weekend was great. We did not see each other in person, with her being on the other half of the country. But things still were done on both ends to make sure that we were very present for the day and that whole weekend. Um, and honestly, the way I'm so methodical, I've been leading up to Valentine's Day since January for her.
Okay,
So,
cool.
just taking very calculated steps to get us to that one moment day.
School me, young bro. What'd you do? What'd you do, sir? Lay it
Oh
out.
yeah, I think it's still an art to ask a girl to be your Valentine. It's so very elementary. It's so very uh, things that we did when we were children. I think the big thing about it is it just holds so much innocence to it. So I started off by sending her something back in January and then asking her to be my Valentine along with said gift. And then very, very intentional conversations leading up to Valentine's Day and other little things along the way that kind of, if she would have pieced them all together, it would have revealed what I got for her. Oh, yeah. I don't play, man. Love is not saying that love is sparse to come by in my generation, but
Mm-hmm.
once you find it, I ain't trying to let go of it.
That's because y'all ain't got the blueprint. The music ain't there for you. I'm glad.
It's not in the music. Yes, it's not in the music.
I'm glad you had a good one. Mine was trash. Oh, oh, it
Were
was
you being a
sad. It
dad?
was
Were you
what?
being a dad?
No, no, no. So what's funny was historically I've had a bad relationship with Valentine's Day. Now, thankfully, over the past decade, that hasn't been too much of a problem being married to the same woman, and we've had some good ones. This one, my God, like it just fell apart so bad. Like we went out to dinner and I found a spot, made the reservations. The menu was looking straight, prefix. All right, good. We get in there. The ambience was right. The vibes was right. Reservation for 6 p.m. So we get in there. We waited in the lounge for like 5 minutes. So we at our table at 6:05. And there was only maybe a handful of other couples in the restaurant. Not a bad thing. 6
Okay.
o'clock. It's early in the evening,
Right, right, right.
just not a bad thing to say.
The freaks ain't came out yet.
Yeah, the free, which is fine. It's good. Tell me why we didn't place a drinks order
Oh.
until 6:40. We ain't place a food order till like 7 o'clock. Now, mind you, this is a prefix menu. There's only a couple options. We didn't get our food. I think I got my appetizer at around 7:30.
What?
The main plate I think came out around 7:45. We didn't get our dessert till like 8:30. We spent
Now, so this is
almost
becoming over 2 hour dining experience.
on one that wasn't expected. And apparently it was a dumpster fire in the back or in the establishment. Like it was bad. Nope, like nobody's stuff was coming. Like I said, again, prefix menu. You know what folks is gonna be ordering. We had one couple that came, they got there around 7:15 and they got up and left. We heard the server have to encourage another table. It was like a party of seven to stay. Like it was so bad when we got our food. I almost felt bad for eating because it was like we might have been one of the only tables with food
Wow,
Period.
that
Like it was
is
it was uncomfortable. It wasn't even the food wasn't even that good. So that was a disappointment. Like, because wifey ordered something. Her plate was pretty decent, but because we don't like to order the same thing, because what's yours is mine was mine.
right, right.
And so I tried something else that the server had recommended. It was horrible, salty as a mug. And all, and all, it was such an unsatisfying evening. And let's put it this way, I don't leave reviews on places. I had to leave a review. And it got so bad
Oh
that
yeah,
by the time we left, my wife was like, I need to speak to the manager, somebody. And I was like, oh, you've reached that
because
point.
you never try to be that person. You never try to be that couple on a holiday that's just like this was unacceptable. Because we really do, especially black individuals, we really do try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
It's a black owned business too. So it didn't want to do it. Didn't want
Ah,
to do it. But it was just like, it was like you said, it was like, come on, it's Valentine's Day. You should know what this is. Two, you got a prefix.
Valentine's Day isn't new. You
It's
know
not.
what the vibe is gonna be.
It was Valentine's Day was on a Friday night. So outside of it being Valentine's Day, it's a Friday night. That should generally be a pretty busy night for you. And three, prefix menu. Like I said, it was a handful of items. Ain't no reason.
This is not like you was working with a Cheesecake Factory menu. They got every
Uh-uh.
every book of the Bible on their menu.
It was, yeah, it was. Like I said, unfortunately, it was one of the lowest. Like, thankfully, it was my wife.
Man,
We enjoy each other's company, and so that was able to get us through.
right.
Like, I couldn't
I,
imagine back in the day if this is one of them Valentine's Day. Like, this is something like your situation, or
right.
or first, like, oh yeah,
I will say, I think I have honestly always been turned away from doing things in public on Valentine's Day for a specific reason. And that's why, because I just kind of working in the food service industry
hmm
throughout college and coming in and work on,
you know what it is. You
whatever.
know what it is.
Yeah, I already knew what it was going to be. So, and I don't, it's like no matter, not saying that everybody doesn't do it well or that some people just don't get it right, because some restaurants really do get it right. Um, it's just that some really do fall short, and it really just becomes a hit and miss.
Yeah, I just had to like me and prior to my wife, me and Valentine's Day had a contentious relationship. Things would always go wrong. High school, I had a third wheel friend of the girl show up on one time. I was like, what the fuck? Another time, the girl got in trouble, and I had spent some tickets on a show. I went to the girl's house and was pleading to her mama. I was like, I understand, but
Please, Lord, please,
I'd have
please,
spent this
Lord.
money already. Oh yeah, me and Valentine's Day have had a contentious relationship, and so yeah, this one took me back a little bit. It's not one of my most memorable of occasions.
Man, I don't blame you, man. And like we said, we're never those people to like, oh, I need to make a complaint. We're just not
Yeah, yeah.
genetically wired for the most part to be complainers. But
I had to let him have it in Google.
and at which point, that's not even a complainer. That's just I want to give this constructive criticism to you. This could have been a lot better.
That's how my wife raised it. She was like,
The odds were really stacked in your favor.
"Oh, and the vibe." I said the vibes was right. The right music was playing. The ambience was straight. Like it was real grown and sexy. A good multicultural crowd. It was good to see. Like, okay, this is a black business, but there's a good multicultural crowd. You had some whites, you had some Asians, you had some other. It was like, okay, this is gonna be in the pocket.
Yeah.
But alas, it
Yeah.
wasn't. Y and Z conversation between the generations. Speaking of the love not being in the music, did you listen to that Drake comeback with
Oh,
PNG?
we did.
Are
We
your
did.
ears are your ears still bleeding? Is that's my question.
Let me say this about it. I feel like that is I hear people's response to saying like it's an album full of just hot garbage.
It is.
I think the if I were to like rate every song 1 through 10, I think the highest song gets a 5.
Oh, that's generous.
Um, yeah, and I screenshotted what I felt like it might have, and I feel like this might not even be a big one. I think I just particularly like it. I love Spider-Man, Superman. I like it. Love is a strong word. I like it. I like Spider-Man, Superman.
Like
But
is a
other than
strong
that,
word for this album too. Like is strong. That's
but yeah, I don't think I don't. I think he should have just did what we said. Not saying that we're the end all be all when it comes to what Drake should have done. He should have just went away and just floated off into the dust and let people forget. Because right now he's reminding us that everything Kendrick said is so kind of being true right now.
The proof is in the
It's
pudding.
like he's not helping himself. He's not helping
Right.
himself with that album. It's even funnier from the Latinx community with that Meet Your Padre, and they're like, "Oh no, Drake, we don't want you either." That was hilarious.
You just can't drop a turd like that
No,
after getting your ass whooped. It was like getting up like, oh, he shit his pants. No, it didn't. Yeah, yes, you did, sir. You put you. Yeah, yeah, ain't no lying. That thing is taken, and we see.
nah, it is. It isn't. It's not a good album. It's yeah. I'm never gonna replay that again.
Yeah, okay, we gonna move on from that quickly. Let's get to some good music real quick. The War and Treaty. Have you heard on them? Let me put you on to something. The War and Treaty.
No, what is this? Who is
It
this?
is a black couple doing country, and since everybody's all on the country train right now, why not? Yeah, it's a black couple doing country. They just dropped an album on Valentine's Day. It is called Plus One. But it's beautiful. Like I said, it's based in country, but it's got some soul, it's got some gospel, it's got some blues in there, it's got some depth to the lyrics for all those who really enjoy black forms of music.
I'm downloading it now.
Definitely check it out. It's a good, solid listen. Like I said, especially with your gospel background too, I think you'll appreciate some of the depth to the lyrics and how they play. It's all like I said, all around good, solid project. Let me put you on to something. It's Y and Z.
Downloading it now.
There you go. There you go. Conversation between the generations. Like, share, subscribe. Y Z the divide. J Clark 787 and
Let me just say this.
where are we going
The
now?
year of our Lord and Savior, 2025. Because I know y'all been seeing me on my phone. I don't know how in the world Xavian D. Lewis is still out here getting hacked on Instagram. This will now have been my third personal Instagram account in my lifetime. The very first one I had was the one I had through middle school, high school, went viral in high school. Somewhere up in there, I got hacked. Then I had to make a new one midway after going viral in high school. So about 11th grade, somewhere up in there. And then that's been the one I've had for now, since now. So the real Xavier Lewis. That's the one. Everybody knows the real Xavier Lewis. Now it's just Xavier D. Lewis. Xavier D. Lewis. Know the real, just Xavier D. Lewis. Go follow me on that platform, obviously, because for some odd reason the hackers just can't get enough of me. I don't understand. I don't understand why. I don't know why, but I'm out here getting hacked over and over again.
It's weird to me you talking about Instagram in middle school.
That's because in your middle school you were still playing with bones
No, first of all,
back in the caveman era.
when I was in middle school, yeah, when I was in middle school, it was nothing. MySpace was coming along when I was in high school. Like, yeah, MySpace was high school. MySpace and AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. Those were the social media platforms, quote unquote, of the day. And I can't forget Black Planet. Black Planet, for all those who know about Black Planet. Why are you looking?
AOL instant messaging.
Oh, bro,
I had no clue about this.
That was the chat before chats like this. That was you had your screen names and away messages and settings like that was clogging up the phone lines to see after school to see if anybody was on and you just be chatting
That
away
is
and doing
hilarious to me.
subliminal messages and away message. Oh man, it was
Oh yeah.
anything you see on social media now, you were seeing at a slower pace on these things, but still the streets were dirty, but it was still good stuff. Don't even
Oh my Lord.
sir.
I just can't believe it. I can't believe it, guys. My Shayla. My Shayla. My Shayla.
I've never been hacked on any of my accounts, so I had no clue what you're feeling, bro. Like this, all my accounts are I've never had that issue. Surprised. Thankfully, knock on wood. Over what are we now? Yeah, 16 years. Oh Jesus, 16 years of I guess us. No, it's been longer because Facebook was for me '06 back when it was the Facebook and you needed a college email address still to get onto it.
Wow.
Hmm. If we
Uh,
call Facebook the start, yeah, 2026 is 20 years of social media.
yeah, we can call Facebook the start. Like
I know my MySpace and stuff before, but like really like when it was
the
really
start was Facebook. Yeah.
was Facebook. Jesus. It's crazy, but this is my 20th year of high school graduation. Sir. I know you still drink the
Whoa,
Similac
Papa.
and wet behind the
Whoa,
ears.
Papa.
Yeah, 20 years since high school graduation.
20 years since high school graduation. Jesus. It's only my fifth year. It's only my fifth year, Clark.
Yeah, it's 20 for high school, 15 for college this year. Whew, 2025. Wow. And the world is burning all around us. See, that's what happens. Us millennials, we hit the mark and they're just like, yeah, we can't do nothing else. Gen Z is not worth it.
What? I was about to agree with your statements until you get to your ending and then you just be running out.
I'm
You
just,
just be
I'm just,
running.
I'm just, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, Gen Z, you're a little lacking with the train here. You know, we need y'all to.
TikTok is our given to society. Just have TikTok. And obviously, the folks are so more concerned about TikTok than they are about their political well being here in the United States. So I guess that's Gen Z's contribution to society, TikTok. Am I proud to say that? I don't really know.
Okay, thank you for getting real there for a second, sir. Because
I really
TikTok,
don't know if that's a proud thing to say.
it shouldn't be. Because TikTok is nothing but a reinvention of something else that was already before it anyway. Which is y'all don't do nothing new, and that's the problem.
But that's the thing. At this point, do the people want new?
Interesting
I
question.
think
Because
that's a better question. I don't think people want new, unfortunately.
is it people don't want new, or they're not given the chance to really experience new? Because I think that's also half the problem is you're not
True.
being.
You when something is new, I think people just be expecting immediate success, immediate gratification, all of these things. But sometimes when something is new, you gotta warm up to it.
Or simply just be open to letting. Because I think part of the problem is nostalgia became a thing, a real thing,
Yes, a heavy thing for
a
this
heavy
in this
thing.
whole in the last 15, 20 years.
And it became the thing to make money off of. Like, there's always been nostalgia. Like, I remember when, Nick at Night back in the day, they did Nick at Night because, okay, yep, these kids should be in bed. Let's hit some of this nostalgia for these older folk who may switch to the channel at night.
Right,
That's,
right, right, right.
but it's not, nostalgia is literally becoming the main driver force of things nowadays. And that's as much as I enjoy some of the catering and the ability to continue to enjoy these things from my childhood into adulthood in a way that I necessarily wasn't able to as a child, it's destructive. Like,
It is. It is. Always this. It's so horrible when we're running a race backwards.
I don't even know if it's we're running a race backwards. We found a chair and we're like, ooh, this is a comfy chair. I'm gonna sit here.
But we see moments where people are like, let's get up from the chair, let's go find a new chair. And then people be like, I like that chair back there. We're fine with it.
Oh, part of the ability is yes, the ability to go back to the chair because it used to be you'd
You
sit in this
couldn't.
chair, you'd get up, and that chair was gone. Now it's yeah, that chair is there, and whether we're really in that space of okay, yeah, I like that chair, and I'm gonna go back to that chair because it's there. Where versus back in the day, where even if you liked the previous chair, you couldn't necessarily go back to it with the
As
freedom that you had.
easily
Yeah,
because it wasn't in rotation. Like
yeah.
if we just use that mindset of, putting something in rotation and it's there, let's just say theoretically a new artist comes out that's in the same lane as Aretha Franklin or whatever. Let's just say theoretical Aretha Franklin. They're in
Okay.
the same lane as Aretha. They start putting out music, in that same vein. Once it's new, they're going to start pulling Aretha from the rotations. So you can't easily access Aretha again. You just have to take in the new, whoever this new person is. Nowadays, we're never removing old stuff from rotation. It's still in there as if it came out yesterday. The new is trash. Let's say that too. Like, let's just be real on that end. So it's like, do I take the new that isn't that good, or do I take the old that I know, which also may not be that good, but at least I know it?
Interesting premise. Interesting. You're about 80% right. I'd say 80% right.
Yeah,
Because yeah, the old stuff is that good. Well, let's not cheat.
it is.
And even
I tried to throw a curveball in there.
and even the old stuff that isn't good is still better than the
Yeah,
stuff that's being dropped now, which is sad. Like that's your A level is like our C level. Like that's just sad, which is a conversation for another day. Because y'all think y'all doing something. But yeah, I mean, simply yeah, the ability to be, I like this, and I don't have to move on from it is wild. But it's also why we like, and we Gen X can. It's a fight between X and millennials, but really, I think it's millennials here. We like to proclaim we had the best coming up because the stuff that got introduced has continued on and on. We got the cream of the crop, like fully optimized
this is true.
versions of things as kids, and it just has not gone anywhere. It has stayed. Everybody has been trying to reinvent that wheel or find the way to top it, and they just haven't been able to, unfortunately, due to a variety of reasons. But don't you wish he was
True.
one? Don't you wish he was one of us? Don't you wish he was born with a 19 in your year? Come on, you can say it. Being born with a birth year that starts with a two really sucks. I know. I
I
know.
don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want
You've
that.
never thought about it. You've never thought about it.
No, no,
Really, really.
no.
You've never thought what it would be like to grow up in this in that era that
If anything, I'm always wondering, what if I was born in the 70s? Better yet, I want to not necessarily 70s because I want to be grown in the 80s. That's what I want to be grown for. I want to be
really.
grown in the 80s.
So you want to be one of these ones. So it's interesting. Sidetrack here. So in church this weekend, my pastor preached a fire ass sermon talking about how racism isn't dead. And little he's like, so yeah, essentially, 1965, the late 60s is when quote unquote things really kind of got equal for a second. And so he's like, so essentially anybody who is born older than 60 was born in the age of racism. So you'd like to be born in the age of racism? Is what you're saying?
Not necessarily. My dad was born in 68. He graduated high school in 84. He was grown.
It's funny because my dad was born in 61, and so he was grown, I guess you could say, in the 80s. Like his college days was Michael Jackson,
Yeah, that was college in
oh,
the 80s.
really. Which what on one hand sounds fire as hell. Because like for example,
Definitely.
you think of a different world. I think of I know a bunch of fraternity brothers who were
Let's be
made and came through in that late 80s. And yes,
even
fire.
even the whole evolution of Freaknik before it became the big thing that it was, just it started off to be, just the picnic scene. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds fire, but you got AIDS.
The
I'm
war
not.
on
I'm not.
drugs.
AIDS is a major dampener over that.
The
Like
war
that's
on drugs.
like crack and AIDS.
Crack epidemic.
Crack and AIDS. Those are two
This
big
is your
down
brain.
points for that time.
This is your brain on drugs.
Like yeah,
you
fire
know,
time. But there's some heavy concerns. Heavy concerns. I bet
and this is the thing. I think this is the over glamorization, the over how we over glamorize. I think those decades, because we often forget. While a lot of caution is a big thing now, caution wasn't a big thing then.
it was becoming like you really started to see it in the
Well,
after
that
school.
didn't really roll around until what, the late 90s.
I mean, as a kid, it was always so. Yeah, you're really getting that heavy in the '90s. A lot of that kind of stuff.
like be cautionary of this, but man, the 80s, come on, man. They just out here living life, not thinking anything of it. And while that might have been glamorous for some, oh, it was treacherous for most.
So really, the 80s is the era you'd like to be an adult for. That's interesting.
Yeah. Just out there gambling life.
I, if I had to pick an era, so like adult, we talking 20s, your 20s essentially.
Yeah, your 20s. What decade would you like to live being in your 20s?
I'm not gonna lie, that early 2000s, late 90s period.
I will say that's a great period. I
That's
think
I think especially as an urban person,
right,
like that would be an
right.
interesting because it seems like the world was really
The world is
it,
altogether what's urban.
it's
Yeah.
all there. It's all there, and the ability as we see a lot of the folk who are still the legends now in the scene were
Were
in
being
that.
established during that time
And
period.
so to be able to be of that age to really take advantage, because yeah, middle school, you're not doing nothing. So yeah, to be an adult at that age, I think would be an exciting experience, especially just sisters back then was just a different level of natural fine. Like, mm, mm.
I always say it, bro. Like nowadays, we got no offense to them. We got the sexy reds, the Meg the Stallions, the
Megan is
Lottos,
different.
all of
Megan is
them.
different. Megan is different. We can
No, no,
use.
no. She's still in that category. Let me tell you why.
Mhm.
Back late 90s, early 2000s, you had video vixens. Ah,
And you only experience that through the eyes of looking back.
yeah,
That's the boy at the time. Ooh, child.
they were different, bro.
King magazine was a staple when I was going to the magazine shop. Smooth magazine was a start. Woo. I would drop a couple dollars for that magazines as a teenager.
Like just that whole period though. I think that would be a great period to be like in your 20s in, especially like if you are in your 20s or even like when you just fresh out of high school going into college. Like just having that sense of the world is changing, it's moving. I'm enjoying myself. There are still the talks about taking precautionary measures in all forms of life are now more prevalent. So I'm not just like stupid. Like I'm still young, stupid, but I'm not as stupid as I could be. So many things that were changing in that late 90s and 2000s era that just made it to me like seem like a truly great time to be alive.
Y and Z conversation between the generations. What if you could pick a period of time to experience adulthood, what would that time be? Or if you did experience that peak time that you so would choose, how was it as
Yeah,
an
let us
adult?
know.
I'm not gonna lie. 20s during the 2010s was interesting simply because you knew how it was back in the day, but it just wasn't quite him. We had some good times. We was catching those residuals. I think we all understood it wasn't what things used to be, and then your generation is just like we don't like life.
Me no like it here. Me no like it here. I'm gonna also tell you. I mean, if you really do take away the segregation and the racism, there are some pre 70s decades that seem pretty fire.
It's a big takeaway, yes, but I'm not gonna lie. If there was one thing I wish I could do is simply be like, yeah, let me time travel to Harlem in the 20s real quick,
Bro, it's
just to see a
1920s. It's
Friday
the
or Saturday night,
1920s.
just
Thank you for saying that. It's
just
always the 1920s.
just to get a Friday or Saturday night, or even like, yeah, let me catch some of that gospel revival in the 50s. It'd be interesting. Like I always said, if I had a holodeck like in Star Trek, I'd just be like, yeah,
Yes.
program me a Saturday night at the Cotton Club, and let me just see
Experience
what
it.
it was like, just to see.
You see what I'm saying? Like stuff like that, and like you said, a big part of it is like trying to disassociate the the color of it all. But if that were a thing, I think it would just be 10 out of 10 amazing.
or even hell, just to see some of these, because as you drive around the country and whatnot, if hopefully as you get out, you we see all these small towns and stuff that was like, oh, at one point this place
Oh,
was
this was popping.
a popping spot. Just to be like, yeah, what was it like when this was popping? Just to be
Yeah,
like, okay, just to be
if
like,
we take if we take the cars theory of it all, like being like, oh, this town used to be popping before the interstate was built, stuff
right,
like that.
right.
Like this was a great vacation pinpoint. It wasn't a vacation spot, but it was somewhere you went to on the way to your vacation spot, that you just had to stop by and see. Stuff like that. I definitely agree. I think it's very interesting to see what those smaller communities were like, especially our smaller communities, because we
But
couldn't
yeah,
stop everywhere.
uh,
So you could only imagine the places that we could possibly potentially stop by. Let's just say during the Great Migration, a family is moving from Mississippi to Detroit. Could you imagine the spots along the way that they could potentially stop by? That's like, oh, this for us.
or even once again, just to see, because we as in this era, as we are, on the back half of Black History Month, and we always hear about, how we need to get back to what we did, or the old folk, or when they talk about these older towns, or
Yeah.
when you had these pockets, aka think of like a Tulsa or whatever it may be, just to be like to see it, to really get that feeling of like, yeah, this was jumping back in the day, or this is what it was. This is what it looked like on the daily versus we see some of the skeletons and the echoes now, like I said, with these abandoned towns, with these old downtowns that just ain't hitting, but just be able to see like, yes, for this community, this is what this community had, and this is what it was. To maybe even hopefully you'd be like, okay, this is what it felt like, this is what it looked like. How can we replicate that now today? Because essentially at this point, a lot of us are disassociated from it just because that's not the era we grew up in. We grew up
Right.
in integration and having access to these things. So we don't exactly know as a full of what some of these things truly felt like or what they meant versus outside of reading it in a book or hearing grandmama talk about it or or whatnot. We that's we have an idealized dream, I think, sometimes of how it should feel or what we think it should like because our scale is bigger. But when you look at some of these places, like, yeah, that downtown was that one block. That
Yeah.
one block was jumping and popping, had everything you need. That's not a life many of us have any association with, even if you weren't necessarily in the cities. We now grow up with things being everywhere. So it would
Yeah.
be interesting just to be able to get a taste of that. Just be like, hmm.
Yeah. I think uh I mean we'll have this conversation in the future, but I always say I think the argument, the discussion was not integration. We
No,
wanted we wanted to be separate. We just wanted to be equal.
we didn't mind the separate. We just wanted the equal access.
Exactly.
It's a good
Exactly.
point to close out on today. It's Y and Z conversation.
Whoa, that's good.
Little froggy there. It's Y and Z conversation between the generations. Generation Y here, Jay Clark, represent the millennials. My Gen Z, Xavian D. Lewis now is the account.
Xavian D. Lewis.
Xavian D. Lewis, J Clark 787. Yeah, we're gonna change that little title card. Woo, magic. Bam, there we go. And YZ the Divide. Thank you for any time you have spent with us. Like, share, subscribe. Be safe out there. Get your fireproof suit on because the world is burning. And this is fine. We're okay.
My Sheila. My Sheila.